Okay, doctor. Let's begin with the first question. What are your thoughts on population control in general?
I think that it's a good practice, but it depends on whether it should be very strictly done by the government, as in sanctioned by the government, or population control done in sort of more softer ways like indirect education and stuff like that. So I think if it's a bit too extreme, I think it's also not good. Like what they are having, I'm not sure whether they're still having it, but they used to have it in China. So that one I think is not very good lah, because it can lead into other problems like infanticide and that kind of stuff. But I think um, targeted education and perhaps some incentives for the population to think more about population and the number of children that they have is good.
All right, thank you, doctor. Let's move on to the second question. Can I have your opinion on the implications of uncontrolled population growth?
On environment, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So our resources are limited in this world. So in the bigger scale, the more humans that are on this world, of course, the more resources are needed to feed it. So the more and more people we have, we will have to produce more, and production leads to more waste and also more burdens on our ecosystems. Uncontrolled population is problematic in that larger scale. In the Malaysian context as well, there are a lot of problems like food security in Malaysia. So Malaysia is actually not food secure. We import most of our rice, which is our staple food. So that's also a problem for Malaysia. And as you know, we have a lot of problems with waste and all the other related stuff in relation to consumption. But I think also the problem arises with our trends in Malaysia, where more poorer people tend to have more children. And I think this makes it very important in terms of education, because poor people, when they have more children, they will also need to use more resources. And are they able to meet the needs of their children, especially through not only the resource needs, but also the education needs? So I think they should be educated in that sense lah. And also, the more children being born in situations which are not so supportive in terms of education and all that, they will also receive less education about the environment and about the importance of sustainability, and this will make it more difficult for us in the future to cultivate the culture of environment and sustainability among Malaysians.
All right. Doctor. Moving on to the next question. Okay. What are your thoughts on the family planning program policies in Malaysia? For example, contraception and the reproductive healthcare facilities in Malaysia. Do you think they are affordable and accessible and sufficient?
Can you repeat the question again?
Oh, sorry. What are your thoughts on family planning programs in Malaysia? For instance, reproductive healthcare facilities and contraception users, are they affordable and are they sufficient?
I actually don't know much about this, but just my general opinions, I think I'm not, like, personally for me, I've never received from the government or otherwise any sort of advice or guidance regarding this. But I'm not sure, maybe because I did not go to a public hospital to give birth. That one I'm not sure, but just in general, personally, as someone who has a family, I have never received any advice in that sense from the government.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Maybe people who go to klinik kesihatan, that one I'm not sure lah. They may have, so you may want to check on that. Maybe you can do some visits to some klinik kesihatan and some public hospitals to see what kind of information they have, whether they have posters about this kind of stuff. However, I think there's also a bit of a cultural context to this. We, Malaysia, of course, most of the Malaysians are Muslim, and I think many of them are Christians as well. And these religions do have certain opinions about contraception. I think the Catholics don't allow it. Some of my friends who are Catholics, unless I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, they don't allow contraception use. Among the Muslims, the belief is that God wants to give you rizki. When you have children, that is your rizki, so you should not push your rizki away. And I think this kind of ideas may not be prevalent in most of the population, but I think it's still quite prevalent among I think the less the sort of poor and the lower classes, which I think is the most sensitive and the most fragile classes of society actually. So they should be given the better support lah. In terms of contraception, I think in Malaysia, it's kind of tied into the stigma about like extramarital sex as well. So there's no difficulty getting contraception. I mean, I'm not sure whether they give it out for free in the clinics or what, but you can go and buy contraception from the pharmacy and stuff like that. But I think there's also a bit of a social stigma to that. So people may not want to openly buy it, especially if they're not married. And even when you're married, it might be a bit weird. So I think all this is a bit of a cultural thing as well. But you definitely should check out what are the like formal mechanisms by the government, how they do it. So I'm not sure about that.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight, Doctor. I think that's all. You basically answered most of my questions already.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for taking the time and helping me in this course. Thank you so much.
No worries. I hope you will look. I mean, you can just look quickly on Google. Are you first year?
Yes, I'm first year.
Okay, you can look on Google Scholar.
Okay.
You know how to use Google Scholar, right?
Yes.
You just look on Google Scholar. Look for scholars who have done work on population in Malaysia. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people from, let's say, the economics department, the economics faculty, who may have done work on